Would it be okay to include a book with a man having a relationship with a 12-year-old?
Wow. Man, guys, this is a touchy, important, very important conversation we're going to be having today. Conservative parents versus liberal teachers. I don't know if it's all of them are liberal or if it's just teachers, but this is a conversation that has been had, and you've seen it on news channels, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you get your media sources. You've heard the conversations of what should be taught in schools to children. Again, let's bring that back. Children, in case you didn't hear me, kids, children, not adults. And so you want to keep that in mind as we're watching this conversation being held by adults and hearing the difference in opinion and also just like belief systems where people found their opinions or where their opinions are grounded in their belief systems and in society, what they feel called to do as a teacher, what they feel called to do as a parent, as a tax-paying citizen, what they're expecting their children to be taught, what they're not expecting their children to be taught, what they believe should be held just for them. And I think this is a very poignant topic. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think many things, but we're definitely going to get into it, see what this is about, but let's get into it.
Well, Mom, the teacher said, what's my pronouns? Yeah, I did say, what's your pronoun? I also said, what's your favorite TV show? What's your favorite food? I am a college professor now. I was previously a third, fourth grade teacher. Teaching third and fourth grade was horrible. Dealing with parents who thought their child was special and should be treated a certain way. It just wasn't doable, the constant complaining.
I will say this. I like that he's already said all these parents thinking their children are special and blah, blah, blah. I think that's very interesting, coming from like I said, I don't know, that everybody's labeled conservative, liberal, but I don't know to what degree the spectrum they're on. But I do like that he's already like, man, you guys are a little crazy thinking that all your kids are special. Yeah, they're special to you, but I got 30 kids to teach, or I got 60 kids to teach, whatever. I don't have time for, all these conversations. And depending on what his belief systems are, or wherever his opinions sit, he probably should be at a college. And I think some of these teachers should elevate themselves or go back to school or whatever, as we're watching this, to go from elementary school and go to college if they want to have these conversations that they just feel so passionate about having. Go and talk to some adults. But let's get into it. Let's hear some more.
Accusing people of doing things that are not going on in our classes, not being enough for their child, it was just too much. When parents don't have the knowledge of what goes on inside of a school, I think it's important for those parents to go to the school. And we as educators like our parents to be involved. Again, I have too many students to push an agenda. I do my job, what they pay me to do.
I want to believe, and I am assuming, I believe he's assuming too, but I don't believe he speaks for all teachers. I believe there are some teachers who don't want parents involved. How do we know this? Because there are teachers who definitely are hard, in their beliefs that I want to protect this topic, and I'm going to not just protect, but I want to withhold these topics from parents. So where he may feel, hey, we want you involved. We want you showing up to the PTA meetings. We want you volunteering in the classroom. I believe there are some teachers or some faculty who don't want that, depending on the parent's belief system, which is so interesting because I remember when I was in grade school, 4th, 5th, 3rd, whatever, and I remember we would have parents volunteering, and it was never a problem for them to volunteer because the topics were just about the topics: English, math, history. It's normal basic stuff. There was nothing else really ever talked about outside of the normal basic curriculum that should be taught in a classroom. Now we have a very different thing. So enough of me talking, but I just believe that in that point when he said that, I don't believe that all teachers stand where he stands, and that's probably the problem that we're going to see here today.
I had a sex ed class when I was in 3rd grade, and it was quite simple. Boys go in this room, girls go in this room, they play a little video on a black and white TV. You know, you see the genitalia, and you're like, oh God, I got one of those, cool, now we're figuring out what I am. The fear is these schools have no boundaries. If they do the classroom thing where they want to split kids up, how many genders are we gonna do this? We're gonna put boys, them, and then girls, and then how many rooms do we need to create for equality? Or are we really chasing equity? And I think parents now are beginning to realize we've got to stop this and create framework about sexuality, especially in a hyper-sexualized culture. My kids don't need to know at 6, 7, and 8 years old about different types of sexual acts. That's not appropriate.
People think that this is just kind of happening, it's a one-off. It is in so many schools. Where I live in Florida, there was a poster going around where kids could text anonymous strangers to get information about sex. And on this poster in school, want to get laid?
What? Want to get laid? What are we even talking about? Like, I'm here in classroom and then I'm hearing about this poster, and this is a mom. I don't believe she has any reason to lie. She seems like a normal person who's just concerned. And wouldn't you be? I think that's the question. It's like, wouldn't you be concerned? And if you're not concerned, maybe you should take a look in the mirror, because if there's a poster of any kind, just even one, all parents, all adults, since we are the ones who are supposed to protect children, shouldn't we all be outraged and go, hey, what the heck is going on in that school? The very most vulnerable people in our society are children. Just interesting to think about. How did that poster get in there? What the heck's going on?
And there is a push for pleasure-based sex. Pleasure for who?
My oldest is 9 years old. She's in 3rd grade, and she's been exposed to things, and we do have conversations about it. But that's a conversation that I should be having with my 9-year-old daughter. If a 6th grader or a 4th grader is going to be prompted by a teacher, hey, what are your pronouns? As a parent, I should have a heads up about that, because they're not even going to understand the question.
Where did we get off? What law passed? What happened to where we just took off and go, everybody's talking about pronouns? We haven't even had a full-blown discussion as a society as to the ramifications. To his point, if you have all of these categories, which is, I've heard this one study where it's basically somebody's conflating sexuality or gender with personalities and thinking that we have multiple genders, where it's, yeah, you have more personality variations, but not so much that sexual side. You know how confusing that is? I just could not, I can't believe that we're at this place where these adults are so emotional and so, like, I wish that we would have, it's basically like, I want to restructure, reframe society. So I'm going to start where I know I can do it. Let's start with the kids, because they'll grow up and they'll change everything else. It may be confusing as heck, but that's where we're going to start. We need to get them infiltrated, and then the system that they bring forth will, it's like, guys, it's going to be a monster. It's going to be a monster society. It's going to be crazy. Like, no one's going to know how to talk, who to talk to. Is it yes, ma'am? Is it no, sir? Is it, what are we doing? We're just causing mass confusion. And we're talking about this to, 2nd, 5th, 4th, 6th, even 7th graders. Like, think about the emotional impact here. Think about how chaotic you were at 13. Think about how many times you wanted to run away from your house. You just emotionally crazed. And think about your hormones. And this is the type of topic. You think kids can really handle this? Guys, this is crazy. Let's keep going.
The idea that those conversations are started in the classroom instead of in the home is a big problem. I have a family member who, first day of 6th grade, was asked for her pronouns, and she stood up and said that as a person of faith, she believed that God didn't make a mistake making her a girl, and so therefore she identified as a she, her, and she was sent to the principal's office and punished for that decision. Thankfully, we haven't seen that broadly yet, but I think it's really damaging to take a shy, innocent 11-year-old child and make them stand in front of a classroom and determine something that they maybe haven't even put that much thought into.
I mean, besides that, the fact that she was chastised for her religious belief. Far as I remember, your religious beliefs are protected. Yeah, we took prayer out of schools, but guys, let's not get it twisted. The little girl said, hey, I believe in God and I believe he made male and female, basically is what she said. And I don't believe he made a mistake, and I'm not buying into this message that we just are hearing about over the last 4 years. And she gets punished? Why? Because she's spreading her message when you asked her a question, but she's not spreading your message. So we need to chastise her, which also kind of, what does that even say? Because these are adults, remember, talking to a child. Go to the principal's office. Why? Because you don't align with what we're trying to teach the rest of these kids in here. That's just what happened. It's sad and it's disgusting.
I like what you said, Sean, about how you were emphasizing, how a lot of parents today felt a goodness of the way that sexual education was conducted in the past. So there is an agreement that sexuality should be talked about in schools. The disagreement is whether it should just be purely heteronormative or if we should include all aspects of sexuality. I don't think that we're doing demonstrations to encourage children how to have sex, but this is something that we are trying to, again, educate and make them aware that this kind of things happen. And while you grow up, you're going to have to experience somebody who's of this orientation.
Kids are naturally curious, and I think that what I'm hearing from you is I understand where you're maybe potentially coming from, but then where's the line between that sex education and introducing them to porn? Because porn can be educational. I was a virgin when I got married, and for years I was made fun of and heard, well, how are you going to know if you don't try it? We hear that a lot too. If you haven't tried to kiss a girl to see if you like it or not, then how do you really know that you're not a lesbian? How do you really know that you're not gay if you've never slept with a guy? How do you really know that you want to be in a monogamous relationship if you don't sleep around? And when you start to introduce those questions to children, specifically prepubescent ones, they're going to naturally be curious, and their emotional and hormonal maturity is not there to be making those types of decisions that have lifelong impact.
Correct.
Well, you're right.
And here's the thing, guys. This type of things, like what she just said, the other aisle or whatever community will say, well, that's not true. You're, even just for what she said, that lady's called a bigot somewhere. She's called hateful just for having not just an opinion, but speaking facts on what she just said there. It is true. They're not emotionally intelligent enough, equipped enough in this life for those type of conversations. But also, let's push it further. There is a agenda that's pretty easy to see that says, hey, how do you know? I remember growing up, and I remember somebody saying to me, well, how do you know? You've never tried it. I don't need to try heroin to know, yeah, it's addictive. I don't need to sleep with a bunch of women to know, oh yeah, it's probably going to be fun, but it's going to have ramifications that I don't want to know the results from. Why? Because we know people who have done that and we see the results. I don't need to try. The idea, there used to be an old saying, and we need to bring it back, but it's like, if all your friends jump off a cliff, should you jump off too? Like, there used to be a responsibility that we were teaching children to not try things. But now it's like, oh, how do you know, Jim? How do you know? Why don't you kiss? I've seen some of these books that people have talked about, and I'm still baffled. But it's like, how do you know unless we got to give them the opportunity? We got to let them. It's basically, let's introduce them to everything, and then slowly trickle it, and then they'll decide for themselves. Like, no, you're muddying the water of what is natural. Natural. How does a woman get pregnant? It's pretty simple. It's pretty common sense. But instead of, we're conflating those things for these infatuations that we have, these feelings and emotions these pleasure hormones that we're trying to, and needs and wants that we're trying to fulfill. And we're taking it further and going, man, we have a society that's not accepting of these things. So we need to create a new society. Again, back to my further point. How do we do that? Through the children. And I think I can definitely see it. I definitely want to hear what this teacher's about to say based on what she just said.
And a lot of them are learning at home, because just like you guys are saying, they come home to tell you things. Well, guess what? Those same kids come to school to talk about what you're telling them at home. You'll be surprised what I hear from students when I do a what do you think? Well, let me tell you what my mama and daddy did. And look, I don't have time. Your kid is not that important to me, not to be rude. I got like 300 students. Your kid is no more important than the other 299. So I don't have time to sit up here and let me get you to think like me. I can't get my own 23-year-old to think like me. At the end of the day, what needs to happen, and this is just my own personal take, parents need to start being parents, because a lot of times the teachers are the parents. They're parenting your kids because absentee parenting.
I believe that out of all the teachers, I believe, and I said this at the beginning, and I said they labeled everybody liberal teachers. I think out of all the teachers between the teachers that we're probably going to get a chance to hear, and we won't get time to get through all this video, I think he is probably more of a teacher, moderate to some degree, that has a little bit more common sense. That's what I believe. I think Miss Kayla here, liberal teacher, I think we're going to see she has a little bit more of an agenda. The last guy, you can tell, he's like, I want parents to be parents, which to me is like, hey, I want you to take ownership of your children, which is what I'm saying as well. Take ownership. The school is only supposed to be doing a small part of how your kids are raised. And if you're having kids, you should be thinking about, how are we going to raise this kid? How much time are we going to get to spend with this kid? I can't tell you people who have kids and they don't think about these things. How much time does a child need? Who are they going to be getting taught by? Because if you're not teaching them, guess what? Somebody is. It's YouTube, it's TikTok, it's porn websites, it's Facebook, it's these others, whatever other kind of sites they can get to. And then, yes, a big portion of it is also the teachers who have an involvement. And there's supposed to be a positive involvement, a corrective involvement that helps you, assists you as a parent, but should not play the role as a parent. And unfortunately, maybe I think this is a conflated issue in our society and culture where teachers feel the need to play the role of parents. But we have to fix this. That's not your child. That's their child, and parents need to step it up and go, hey, wake up, because you know, maybe that we've had maybe there's a sleeping parent generation that we need to label, and maybe there was a sleeping parent generation, and now they're waking up because they're going, you want to teach what? Oh, we thought we can you guys were the second parent daycare, and now they're waking up. Let's see if we still have time for Kayla here.
I think we need to step back and look at why we automatically assume that if we're telling our children about lesbians, gay people, queer people, why do we immediately equivocate that to telling them about what sex is? That can just be something as simple as, here's a book. In this book, there are 2 dads. This book character has 2 dads. And kids, they can be inquisitive, and that's good, right? But also, like, they're gonna be like, cool, there's 2 dads.
All these kids know that there's a dad and a dad and a mom and a mom, and the culture is teaching all of that. So what we've noticed is that the curriculum in 8th grade and up is a lot deeper than that. It's more like, here is how you can have sex so you do not get pregnant. Illustration of anal sex. That is the stuff that we are now reacting against. And that, sadly, is the trust that's being broken between teachers and parents.
Yeah, and I think we're moving into a conversation about comprehensive sex ed. What I am talking about is when I go into this classroom and I'm teaching kids, I'm not going to just teach kids material that is heteronormative.
Hold on. I'm not just going to teach kids things that are heteronormative. Okay. Guys, tell me in the comments what you think of that statement. Let's keep going, though.
Out of curiosity, it sounds like what you're saying is you want to be able to introduce all ways of life. Like these are the people that you will encounter with throughout life.
That is what I'm arguing, yes.
So would it be okay to include a book with a man having a relationship with a 12-year-old in that book? I know it's extreme.
No,
hold on, but just hear me out.
Because now you're equivocating gay people to pedophiles.
No, I'm not.
And no, that's not okay.
That is not.
No. You're drawing a line that I'm not drawing.
And you're definitely crossing the line.
I agree. I agree. And this is why I'm bringing it up. Is who establishes the boundary?
The law.
But what
Period.
law? The law is
But the law that's been signed in is some few
I'm
states.
sorry. No, there's laws between adults having sex with children. Now, if a student had 2 parents who happen to be of the same sex, I'm not going to sit there and discount who they are in my class. I cannot do that. I signed a contract.
I would never ask anybody to uplift or suppress any child. I want there to be equality in the classroom. What I am saying is that there are factual instances where this is being taught in classrooms. I pulled my children out of public school because there are so many instances of this happening. I am a parent. I'm looking in the book bag every day. I'm checking in with homework. I am talking to the teachers and the principals, and I'm involved. But we didn't know that, during class, there were images shown of literal sex acts or describing certain situations that were inappropriate. For young children.
Inappropriate. Speak, mama. Like, really, guys, the teachers had nothing to say at that point because I believe they know. I believe that just as we have communities of engineers, you have communities of football players, I believe teachers know, and I have heard through conversations that teachers know of other teachers who have taken it too far, or teachers who they had to fire because they found child pornography on their computers or on their hard drives. It is like, well, where there's smoke, there's fire. I believe that we have to really take a deep look, and I wish we can go all the way into this, but we can't today, guys. But I will say we need to take a deep look into what has happened over the last 20, 25 years within our culture and within the school systems and within our households, that we are now at this place where parents and teachers are having to talk to each other about what should, can, and shouldn't be spoken about in schools. Because honestly, this is wild. Like, it to me is unconceivable why we're having to talk about these things. I understand children will be curious. I completely understand that they'll walk in and go, hey, why does she have two dads? Or why does he have a... That's totally fine. But I also understand that teachers go, well, you know, honey, that just happens. You should ask your mom about that. I remember my teacher saying that all the time. You should ask your dad about that. Yeah, you know, that's just how her parents. Is that an honest answer? Yeah, that's still an honest answer. Is it telling the kid everything? It sure is not telling the kid everything, because maybe the kid can't handle that. But I don't believe that is for the teacher to decide. That is for the parent to decide. And I think that I will say this. I haven't finished the video, but I have a lot of respect for these people, for the parents and for the teachers, taking the opportunity to go public and be in front of the cameras and giving us their takes, their opinions, and their walk of life, and you know, sharing that a little bit. You guys should check this out in your free time and leave in the comments. What do you think? What should the role of teachers be in the classroom? What should the role of parents be at home? Should they be taking their kids out of school? Should they be at least being more participative in school so they can know what's going on in the classroom? Is my kid safe? Are they aligning, or at least not, you know, taking my kid completely from within the realms of what I'm teaching in my household? Are we being combative in the raising of this child? And I think that that's an important question for you to answer. But other than that, guys, I love you so much. And thank you for tuning in and being patient with us. Sorry we can't finish the whole thing. But again, check it out at your leisure, and you can enjoy it without all the pauses and me talking the whole time. This has been The Black Box. Like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you next time. God bless.